First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
The UF weather team is tracking strong storms with heavy lightning in parts of north central Florida. The storms have been off and on for much of the afternoon. Take a look at the rain pouring outside the WUFT studios on the campus of the University of Florida. The storms will linger into the evening. This is First at 5. I'm Jack Meyer.
And I'm Tatyana White. We're joined by UF forecaster Reuben, who says these storms have been impacting our area all week and more rain is coming.
That's right, Tatyana. It looks like it's going to be a rainy weekend, but we also have the potential of a flash flood. Now let's take a look at the current storm tracker. Right now, mostly the Gainesville area is seeing rainfall, but let's take a closer look. If you see those lightning bolts and you're heading up 301, you may be seeing lightning bolts, as I was driving last night and I seen one myself. Now, let's take a look at the flash flood. Looking at today, North Florida is mostly seeing it, but it's on the lower end due to the rainfall. The flash flood could be seeing us coming into the weekend. Now, let's take a look on campus. It looks unfamiliar, almost unrecognizable, gloomy, 75-degree weather. That reflects North Florida, as you're seeing mostly 70 and 80-degree weather due to the rainfall affecting North Florida. Now, let's take a look at the hourly. You're seeing rain, and more rain. You're going to be seeing storms as the night goes on, but as the night goes on, you shouldn't be seeing too much storming in the night. Now, let's take a look at the coming up. I'll have more for you about the flash flood risk affecting the weekend. A rainy weekend, not good news for me. It's my birthday on Saturday, and we have high temperatures going into next week.
Evictions are on the rise in Gainesville. That's according to a new study. WUFT Charlize Ramos is live in the studio. Charlize, you looked into the study and what could be contributing factors to the high numbers in our area.
Yes, eviction rates have exceeded pre-pandemic levels in major cities across the nation, with Gainesville being one of them. This comes from factors such as surging rental rates and the expiration of COVID-era protections. Experts blame increased eviction filings on rising rent costs. Records show Gainesville eviction rates have exceeded pre-pandemic levels by 46%.
Rents have really gone up.
Ann Ray is the Florida Housing Data Clearinghouse Manager at the University of Florida Schimberg Center for Housing Studies.
In Florida and nationwide, in some parts of the state, as much as 20 or 30% in 21, 22, a little bit less than that in Alachua County. So people are having more difficulty paying their rent, and they're having that difficulty without the kind of supports that were available a couple of years ago.
Ray says without the safety net protections and federal rental assistance, eviction rates are back up. Clark Woods volunteers with the organization Gainesville is for People. The group advocates to end housing shortage in the area.
We know people who are struggling to pay rent, and we just want to see the situation improve. And thankfully, the City Commission is doing a really good job by passing new ordinances that allow folks to build more housing, if they want to build smaller houses, because that's what people are demanding.
Experts say the vast amount of evictions are rent-related issues. A report from Apartment List shows that nationwide rent is 21% more expensive as compared to March 2020. I spoke with a representative from Watson Realty Corporation who told me that before renting, you need to understand the market, research neighborhoods, review lease agreements carefully, and know your rights. Live in the studio, Charlize Ramos, WUFT News.
Fresh off facing the nation to address his decision to drop out of the presidential race, President Biden is back to work today hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He wants a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas and bring home some 100 hostages held by the terrorist organization. And as Alice Barr reports, the tensions come as the 2024 presidential race is heating up.
Shifting power dynamics on display today as President Biden and Vice President Harris meet separately with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the state of Israel.
Looking for long-sought resolution on the Israel-Hamas war, one of the issues that could define the president's legacy. And a key test at the start of the Harris presidential campaign. The vice president walking a line as she seeks to appeal to Democrats turned off by U.S. support for Israel in Gaza. Netanyahu's visit and fiery speech before Congress touching off intense protests in Washington.
Israel bombs, USA pays.
That led Vice President Harris to condemn, quote, despicable acts by some protesters who burned the American flag and scrawled pro-Hamas graffiti. Prime Minister Netanyahu set to meet tomorrow with former President Trump, who's been vocally supportive of Israel, and said today on Fox News the Prime Minister needs to finish the job in Gaza.
You got to get it done quickly because they are getting decimated with this publicity.
The former president also ramping up attacks against his new likely opponent, shedding his promised unity message following the attempted assassination.
They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice. And when you're dealing with these people, you can't be too nice.
Earlier in Houston, Vice President Harris thanked the American Federation of Teachers for their work for children and their endorsement, as she tries to highlight both domestic and foreign policy in a presidential campaign at warp speed. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
New changes are in store at the end of the month for Florida's driver's license, all for better protection. The state is changing how it assigns driver's license numbers starting July 31st. The Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles will pick random numbers to put in a new driver's license number to protect your identity. A new Florida law is behind the change, so there's less chance someone uses your birthday and other personal information. Next week, the state of Florida will start a tax holiday, allowing back-to-school shoppers to avoid paying sales tax on items such as clothes, school supplies, and laptops. Among other items, shoppers will avoid paying sales tax on clothes, shoes, and book bags that cost $100 or less, school supplies that cost $50 or less, and personal computers that cost $1,500 or less. Florida Retail Federation President Scott Shaley says the 14-day tax holiday closely resembles the end-of-the-year shopping season in its impact for many businesses.
We're blessed with a very, very competitive retail environment in the state of Florida. From big box to small stores, everybody has their unique mold. They're going to be working hard to get your business and to get you in the store.
The back-to-school holiday was included in a broad tax package that lawmakers and Governor Ron DeSantis approved this year. It is projected to save shoppers $97.2 million.
With a nearly $1 million grant, the University of Florida is boosting science in Florida middle schools and high schools. Today's workshop at Plant Pathology let several teachers see a greenhouse and learn about UF research to boost crops around the world. The overall theme is to develop a scientist in every school.
This outreach activity recruit Florida teachers and we try to train them with plant pathology, molecular plant pathology, and we are hoping they can deliver the knowledge from this workshop.
This is the third year of a 4-year program. A National Science Foundation grant of nearly $1 million funds the program.
Coming up next when First at 5 returns, opening ceremonies of the Paris Olympics is less than 24 hours away. We go behind the scenes of the massive efforts to bring you every event live.
Plus, dozens of wildfires are burning across the country. How the hottest day on the planet contributed to the explosion of flames. We'll be right back. Nearly 80 active wildfires are burning in the USA as the Earth just hit the hottest temperature ever recorded Monday. The park fire raging in California exploded overnight Wednesday, growing 7 times larger in just over 4 hours. And as Michael Yoshida reports, that's not the largest fire burning right now.
The park fire in California exploding overnight, growing to more than 45,000 acres in just 4 hours, fueled by temperatures topping 100 degrees and wind gusts between 20 and 25 miles per hour.
The size of these embers are like dollar bills and they're hot.
The fire has burned an average of 50 football fields per minute since it started Wednesday. Mandatory evacuations have been ordered in Butte County, where the state's deadliest wildfire, the Camp Fire, killed more than 80 people in 2018. Across the western United States, first responders are battling dozens of wildfires. In Oregon, the Durkee fire remains the largest in the country, forcing some to evacuate.
It wasn't a knock, it was a pound. A pound, 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 pound. Opened up the door. Get out now, leave now.
High temps, extremely dry conditions, and strong winds are fueling the fire, which has injured people and destroyed homes and other structures. The Red Cross has set up an evacuation center to provide displaced residents with food, supplies, and a place to stay.
I'd bring records, just be on the safe side. And any special medications, they should definitely bring those as well.
And across the border, a fast-moving wildfire scorched the town of Jasper, Alberta, in the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies. Thousands of people, including tourists, forced to flee as the fire caused significant damage. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Another stormy evening across north central Florida, and flash flooding will be possible. I will track the heaviest rain next.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
I have a current storm tracker on what is looking like in North Florida, more so towards the Gainesville area. They're being swarmed by weather, but let's take a look at the past 24 hours. You can see Marion County cities like Early Bird and Rainbow Lakes Estate, they've seen nearly 4 inches of rainfall. Cities like Ocala seeing nearly an inch of rainfall. That could be signs for us to come. But let's take a look on campus. Almost unrecognizable. We're seeing gloomy, dark clouds, rainfall consistently. Now let's look at that weather, 75 degrees. That's not normal. As looking at the Florida weather, it's not just Gainesville. Cities around North Florida have been seeing more rainfall than usual, so the temperatures are lower than usual. Gainesville 75, Jacksonville 80, Ocala 80. Just lower temperatures than normal. Now let's take a look at the future tracker. As over the night tonight, shouldn't be seeing much rainfall. Going into the morning, if you're planning on getting a run in, I would suggest that morning, as it's not going to be much rainfall. It's going to be dry. But going into Friday, we're not in the clear, as the flash flood risk looks like it's moving more so towards the central Florida and North Florida area, still staying at 1, not moving up in the flash flood risk degree. But let's take a look at the current satellite. As you can see, more so towards Texas up into the Carolinas. The front is affecting North Florida and the cities and states surrounding that area. But as the front goes into the weekend, it's going to be moving more so towards North Florida. Now let's take a look from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. tomorrow going into the weekend. The front's just going to be moving more and more down towards the south, and it's going to be seeing rainfall spotty throughout the weekend. Shouldn't be too much consistency, but it's not going to be a dry weekend. Now let's take a look at tomorrow. You're seeing 75-degree weather, 80-degree weather towards the afternoon and the evening times. But as you see, it's going to be a trend starting off hot and dry, but as the day goes on, you'll be seeing rainfall and storms mostly affecting this weekend. Now, let's take a look at this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. As I mentioned, it's the same trend. Mostly dry skies early on in the morning, but as the day goes on, you're going to be seeing rainfall and the chances of the heat increasing. It'll be peaking around noontime. Now let's take a look at the 7-day outlook. We have mostly storms all throughout up until Wednesday, but 97 degrees on Thursday. Prepare your sunscreen.
They say 3 things are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and the University of Florida producing some of the world's best athletes. And they've set a new school record with 40 current and former Gators set to compete in this year's Olympics. Florida's 40 athletes in Paris are the 4th most of any collegiate program this year, and the most in the SEC. Gators are representing 21 different countries across 8 different sports. Grant Holloway, Caleb Dressel, and Leanne Wong highlight the long list of Florida athletes. Adriana Leone and Deanne Ross were the first 2 Gators to compete, both for the Canadian soccer team. They helped lead Canada to a 2-1 victory over New Zealand this afternoon. Just like that, former Florida Gator baseball star Jack Caglione is a millionaire. Last night, Cag signed a $7.5 million deal with the Kansas City Royals.
And before we go, one last check on the weather.
So I have a 7-day outlook. As you're seeing, it's mostly 90-degree weather as the high, and the low being 70. That may be due to the increased rainfall going on throughout the week. As you're seeing, it's storms, not just raining. We're going to be seeing potential storms going from now until Wednesday. Prepare yourselves.
Thanks for that recap, Reuben, and thank you at home for joining us. We're back here tomorrow for another edition of First at 5.
But your North Central Florida news is always on at WUFT.org and on all our social media platforms. Have a good night.